One of the main issues that men seem to be running into as an obstacle when it comes to trying to develop a relationship with women nowadays is that, well, they're highly disagreeable for the most part, and they're also highly neurotic. Okay, so that means that they're very much going to go against what you have to say for no real reason other than they want to be opinionated. And then they're also neurotic, which means that they're going to be kind of spazzy. And so when you are decreasing in your neuroticism, no matter who you are, it's likely going to be for the better. And when you increase in conscientiousness, which means you're able to focus more, self-discipline, self-love, self-care, self-compassion, you're able to know what it's like to be focus and optimize things, right? That's where you're going to be able to naturally grow more in openness and compassion. And I think that women, for the most part nowadays, just don't have the openness and the compassion that is required to be in a everlasting relationship. Now, there are women, of course, out there that are going to be able to fit under this umbrella. And they are very few, though, in number. I'm not exaggerating when I say nearly all women in America, as far as I can tell and from what I've seen, are whores. Okay? Whores and sluts are different. Sluts are more just fun to have fun. They want to just, they want to just do things to just do things, let's say. Whereas whores, in my semantic viewpoint, whores are the ones that do things for money. Okay, and most women nowadays, feminism has exposed just how much women are willing to go through for the sake of having their own money or being a baddie and all these other terms, right? And what I say to these men is, why are you wifing up disagreeable, neurotic women? Don't do that, because the reason, the reason that you're failing and you're trying to maintain the relationship with a disagreeable and neurotic woman who lacks compassion is that she's basically a toxic man. It's funny how they it's like, I don't like the term toxic masculinity at all, but it's interesting. I've never put this together until just now, but they're like projecting their own inner version of toxic masculinity onto other people while acting it out themselves through those specific character traits and personality traits. And they don't realize what they're actually doing. They don't realize the problem that's actually there and that is being proliferated as they pursue this kind of behavior. And it's really too bad, it's really too sad as well, because there's a lot of women that just have too much pride to admit that they need a man. And they have too much pride to admit that they want to be in submission to a man's mission. They want to be submitted to a strong masculine leader who can have fun, a good time, but he's also has boundaries. He is focused, he's disciplined, he's doing what he needs to do to provide and protect. He takes care of himself. He goes to the gym, or he just works out in general, whether you have a home gym or whatnot. Whatever the case is, right? You're doing what you need to do to stay strong and healthy, not just in your body, but also in your mind and in your soul. Women they can't appreciate that. A lot of men will say that women are heartless or that they're evil, which I can understand why they have this sentiment toward women, but it's simply not the case. It's that we have lost the ability to lead ourselves, and so too, I implore you to look at it this way, but so too have we lost the ability as men to really lead women. The more that we lose the ability to lead women, the more that we lose the ability to lead ourselves, and vice versa. It's going to be a natural cause and effect either way, because of course correlation does not equal causation, but it is the case that when we're operating from this level where it seems like most men just find it helpless and hopeless. And maybe these men even have options. So they're not really entirely hopeless, but it's just that no woman really gives them that oomph, that knocking their socks off, that sweeping. Like they don't even want to sweep a woman off her feet because the man just doesn't feel like the woman is capable of a long-term relationship. And so the women that are capable of that, though, I mean, that's really something to behold, I mean, how many men, I'm curious to see how many men in the comments, have you actually met a godly woman? I'm curious to know if that's a possibility or the case, because if you've never met an actual godly woman, then the likelihood of you seeing the virtues of an actual feminine woman is probably pretty low, because you might not even know a feminine woman if she stood before you. Because the thing that I've learned about men and women who are highly individuated, and when I say that, I mean they are closer to God and enlightened, right? They're closer to themselves, and so too they are closer to God. These people, and they know who they are, and they understand why they are the way that they are, and they've integrated their shadow, as Carl Jung's talked about this, right? The reason that these people that are individuated, men, they are capable of being feminine, even though they don't have to be. And the women that are most individuated and closest to God are most capable of being masculine, even though they don't have to be. It's because they know how the energy exchange of life works. It's an energy exchange, and I think that there's a kind of I don't know why this term is coming to mind, but savant. I don't think that's the right term, but there's this savantness. Maybe, is that the right term? Anyway, I hope you guys understand what I'm saying here. But there's this kind of not, maybe it's nonchalant. That's what I'm thinking. There's this nonchalantness of life that is able to be incorporated with the person the more that they're closer to God. And this is something that's very interesting. Like, we have one of the guys in the Regal Change Academy, and he definitely is one of the most masculine men I've ever known. And yet he's very capable of compassion. Like, he has this kind of gentleness to him that I don't think you would be able to notice unless you were actually just, you were having a conversation with him. And it's very interesting how that can happen, right? And it's the same kind of thing with women as well. Like, I've met women in the past who are actually godly, and they have this air of lightheartedness just emanating around them, right? They just have this childlike energy. I mean, they'll talk about anything, they'll with glee as well. And then at the same time, if you start to maybe if there's a boundary there that you didn't really know was there, they'll very much so assert themselves, and they'll stand their ground. And I think that's great. I think we need more women like that, and we need more men that are capable of doing that as well on the man side. But the thing is that majority of women have put men in a place where they have no choice but to be rude. Like, have you guys noticed that? Like, I don't know what else it's going to take for women to learn their place, because we've tried to listen to them, and we tried the 19th Amendment. That didn't work, and neither did the 19th. Neither of those things worked. And it's not that women aren't worth listening to. It's just that most women generally don't mean what they say at all. And most men nowadays are completely incapable of following through with what they say they're going to do. So both men and women are having a hard time with matching their words and their actions, just in different types of perceptions and modalities and frames of mind. Well, so what do we do about that exactly? How do we like, how do we live like that? How do we formulate a proper mode of being going forward so that we can live in accordance to God's law, statutes, and commandments while also not belittling our own sensitivities, because and ignoring them, okay? Because it's a very fine line, and it's almost like on the flip side, yeah, it's a very fine line because it's very difficult to say. I don't think that men can be nice though to these women, or even kind. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be kind. I'm just saying that it's almost as if you can't be kind to these women. It's like the dopamine receptors in their minds have been so fried that kindness is just it's not to many of these women out here, not all of them for sure, because I would say that for the most part, showing a woman proper affection is going to be the key indicator to an everlasting relationship. But it's almost as if that even how do I say this? It's almost as if even if you're kind, the probability of her taking advantage of that kindness is ever increasing, given the state in which the proclamation that women have made has been how do I say this properly? The proclamation that women have made to really ensure that men do not be able to claim their own manhood, their own right to life in the masculine sense. Women have, for years now, proclaimed that they don't need men. And now men are saying, okay, well, I mean, I kind of like being alone anyway. Not all of them. And I'm definitely not one of those channels or those people that will encourage you not to get married, okay? Now, am I going to get married? Not under the state, okay? I'm not getting the government involved with my romantic relationships. And the reason for that is because the laws are just, it's too risky to get married with the state, basically, because you're inviting the government to take control of your life to some degree. And I can go into that more in another video, but I think that for the most part, but at the same time, it's like if you don't make that, firm commitment to each other, it's almost like, well, what kind of commitment are you making? What exactly? Because at least with the state, well, because the state is supposed to be involved so that things are properly aligned no matter what happens. But what happens when the state is literally formed to repress the potential of a man in no matter what way, shape, or form, because they've exposed his virtues and they've punished him for his virtues? What happens then? What happens when that happens? I mean, if you're being punished for your virtues and you're being ostracized for wanting to do the right thing, and you're actually wanting to do the right thing, why would you want to work with someone like that? Why would you want to be with someone like that? And by that, I mean the government. Okay, because the government is, at least in the United States, that's how it works for the most part. And so I'm not going to be one of those people telling you not to get married, but at the same time, you gotta vet, you gotta be mindful. And I felt like I should be married for 4 or 5 years now. I don't think that I ought to be 29 as I am today and in the situation that I'm in, because I know that I have options. Like, I'm in some ways, like when I talked about earlier, the men who have options, but they don't really have anybody to really build with. It's like, it's comforting, but that's all that it is. It's just a comfort. It's a fake sense of comfort. And so I know men that are like this. I know myself that am like this. And it's like, well, yeah, we have options, but it's like, do we really want to do anything with these options? Are these really even options? Are they just illusions? So if you do have a woman in your life, or you have a man in your life, if you're a woman watching this, and you have someone that you know is godly, don't take them for granted. Not one bit, okay? Don't take them for granted at all. So appreciate them and appreciate just who they are, and not what they are, but who they are, and why you guys have come together to ensure that the probability of godliness is increasing and not decreasing, because we're going to have to fight for what we believe in one way, shape, or form, especially for followers of Christ. And so this is something to keep in mind as you go through life, and really just try to understand the exact things of what's happening, because it's very hard to describe exactly what's happening so plainly that doesn't piss people off. Like, it's you can't not describe what's happening and have someone not want to say something like that. It's just going to be inflammatory, when I don't really mean it to be inflammatory, but that's exactly how sometimes it comes off. But really, men, I implore you, I encourage you to, before you get married, look at the kind of woman that you're with. Is she submissive? Okay, is she wanting to cooperate? Is she warm? Is she inviting? Is she feminine? Is she empathetic? Does she actually care for you? Does she actually want to give you her? She doesn't just want to have a good time. There's a difference. And a woman who's in love with you, she'll want to give you everything she has and more. So with all that being said, I hope that this message is useful and insightful for you. I hope that it is in some way encouraging, but also helps you understand where we're really at. And for all the women that may be watching this, I hope that you understand, have a better understanding, hopefully invoking some empathy to the men out here that are, look, they're just trying to make a living and do the right thing. And because they're not the top 20% or the top 1% of life, and you're nowhere near that either, you think you deserve it for some reason, you're going to shit on these men? The men who build the roads, the infrastructure, the architecture, the devices that you hold in your hand, everything. You're gonna take away the dignity of these men because they don't fit the ideal that you think. Let's rethink that for a moment. Let's come back to reality, okay? And from then on, that's where we'll be able to at least find some common ground and work together, because we do work better together, ladies and gentlemen. We do work better together. So with all that being said, I hope everybody has a blessed rest of your day or evening, whatever time you're watching this. Join the Path of the Golden Lion. It's a free webinar event that'll be this Sunday, November 9th, and that'll be at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can register for that in the link in the description box below. I hope everybody stays blessed out there. Peace. Until next time.